Let's talk about something that is just universally painful, but something we rarely get a good strategy for. What do you do when you are being ignored? Well, this is all about how to flip that script and turn a moment that feels like total weakness into your greatest source of power. And it's so true, isn't it? It feels like you've just been erased, even though you're standing right there. It's this uniquely sharp sting, and, the first step is just admitting, yeah, this really, really hurts. And what happens next? Your mind just goes into overdrive, right? You start replaying every single interaction, trying to figure out what you did wrong. You start questioning your own value, your importance. And this internal chaos, it's a totally normal reaction, but it's exactly where you start giving all your power away.
So, let's just reframe this whole experience. What if being ignored isn't a sign that you're insignificant? What if it's actually a sign that your presence is so powerful, it's a threat to someone? That their silence isn't about your weakness, but it's actually the beginning of your real transformation.
Okay, to really get this, you have to understand who you're actually up against here. And it's not really the person ignoring you, it's their ego. I want you to think of it like this separate character in the story, and it's playing a game. And man, is it hungry. And here's the thing you've got to remember. The ego's entire goal, its whole purpose, is to feel big by making you feel small. It gets its power by knowing it can pull your emotional strings. It just thrives on having that upper hand. And this is the ego's favorite food. Every single time you chase, every time you send that long rambling text explaining yourself, or you react with anger or sadness, you are literally serving it a 5-course meal. You're handing them the crown and proving they have control. And that right there, that's the secret sauce. See, you can't fight an ego head-on with arguments or confrontations. That's a game you're always going to lose. The only way to win is to make it completely irrelevant, to just stop playing its game. So that brings us to the actual solution. The most powerful move you can possibly make is what we call strategic non-reaction. Now, this isn't about being passive. It's about being so grounded in your own self-worth that their silence has absolutely nothing to grab onto. Let's just break this down. On the left, you've got the usual stuff, the reactions that drain all of your power. The chasing, the begging, that whole storm of emotion. But on the right, that's the strategic response. Instead of chasing, you practice stillness. Instead of emotional chaos, you cultivate composure. You stop explaining yourself and you start focusing on yourself. You stop handing them the crown and you choose yourself instead. And this is where the power dynamic completely flips. The person ignoring you, they expect a reaction. They're waiting for you to chase, to get upset, to fill that void that they've created. When you give them nothing but calm, dignified silence, you create this vacuum that they just can't handle. But the real question is, how do we actually do this? I mean, how do you find composure when everything inside you is just screaming? Well, it all comes down to a really clear, actionable process. It's really just a simple 3-step playbook. First, the moment you feel that sting, you just pause. You breathe. You fight that instinct to react immediately. Second, you consciously redirect all that focus inward to your goals, your health, your work. And third, you just keep building a life that is so full, so engaging that it doesn't stop for a second just because someone else looked away. Now, this part is so important because strategic silence is not a performance. It's not about posting cryptic messages on social media or trying to prove how happy you are. The real power comes from genuine indifference. And let's be super clear, this strategy is for when things have devolved into a power game. In healthy relationships or professional settings, a direct, respectful conversation is always your first move. But when you know you're being intentionally ignored just to get a reaction, that's when you refuse to play. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. Your calm, continued progress sends a message that is so much louder and clearer than any argument you could ever have. It just says, I noticed, I understood, and I chose myself. So when you really commit to this approach, you start to experience this unspoken victory. It's a profound shift in power that happens entirely inside of you. And this is the beautiful part. The goal isn't to make them come crawling back. The real victory, the real win, happens when your focus on your own growth just makes their behavior completely irrelevant. You don't win by finally getting a reaction. You win by outgrowing the need for one in the first place. This is what you're really fighting for. It's called self-mastery. It's the ability to feel that sting of being ignored, but not let that sting decide your next move. It's emotional sovereignty.
It means you are the only one who gets to write your emotional story. I mean, just look at this contrast. They expect you to fall apart, to chase them for validation. They expect their silence to define your whole world. But your reality? It becomes the exact opposite. You rise up, you become unreachable, and your silent growth makes you unforgettable in a way that chasing them never, ever could.
I love this idea that your attention is literally currency. It's your most valuable asset. So when you spend it on someone who ignores you, you're making yourself emotionally poor. But when you reinvest that same attention back into yourself, into your discipline, your purpose, your peace, you become incredibly powerful.
And that's when it hits you, the big aha moment. You realize the entire power dynamic was just a myth. Their ego was built on your emotional reaction. The moment you take it away, you finally see the truth. They were the ones who were dependent on you all along.
All right, so let's boil all this down. What are the big takeaways? Number 1, your reaction is your power, so guard it like a fortress. 2, genuine indifference, not fake anger, is what starves an ego. 3, your composure is your absolute greatest weapon. 4, growth that's done in silence is the ultimate response. And finally, remember this: attention given to the wrong people is a tax on your soul. It's time to stop paying.
So I'm going to leave you with this question. Being ignored, it's often a test. Not a test of your worth, but a test of your boundaries. It's someone probing to see how much access they have to your emotions. When you hold your ground with dignity, you fail their test in the best way possible. You prove that your self-respect is so much stronger than your need for their approval. So, what will your response teach them about you?